Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spanner Man again with another video, so stay tuned, enjoy the video, give us a thumbs up, give us some comments and subscribe to the channel. Bye for now. Yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spanner Man again here with another video. Today we're going to talk about using the wrong file on the wrong chain. So there's a lot of people out there sometimes that get confused or not too sure and they use the wrong file and it can cause damage in some cases. So first of all, we'll talk about the file sizes that are out there and what size chains that they fit. First is 1/4 inch Pico. That's a real smallest chain you can get, and you find them on battery operated little hand pruner miniature chainsaws like the Stihl S GT I think 26, a little small handheld one. That's 1/4 inch Pico that uses a 3.2mm file. Next size is 1/4 inch standard. That uses a 4mm file. Next size up is your 3/8 low profile, and that uses a 4mm file also. Then 0.325, that uses a 4.8mm file. Then we've got standard 3/8 that uses 5.2mm file, but some of the chain manufacturers recommend a 5.5mm file for that. 404 chain, 5.5mm file. Now, there are only two chains there where I'd ever change file size. Your chainsaw tooth is much higher at the front and tapers down because of the back slope that's on the tooth. When the tooth wears halfway down, it's quite normal for a lot of people, have a bit of experience. So if you had a 404 chain and you had a 5.5mm file, when it wore about halfway down because of the slope, as was just talking before, they swapped to a 5.2. If you had a 3/8 standard chain and you had a 5.5mm file because the manufacturer recommended that, still recommend 5.2, but there are manufacturers, Hurricane Chain recommend 5.5mm file. When it wore halfway down, swap to the 5.2. Unfortunately, when you get to the 0.325, there's nothing much you can do because that's a 4.8mm. There's no 4.5mm file available. And for your 3/8 low profile, there is no file available between 4mm and 5.2. So what I deliberately did was file a couple of teeth with the wrong file, and these are the ones that you would avoid. So the chain in front of you is a standard 3/8 low profile safety type chain with double rakers, as you can see there. Not a fan of those, but anyway, nonetheless, they have them. Deliberately filed that with a 5.2mm file, and you can see the back slope on there. Not very good, a bit of back slope. It's not going to cut as good as a standard type tooth, which is this one here, and you can see that nice little C shape there. I'm just wondering where's the best. Yeah, you probably get a better view of the little C shape like there. And if we were to put a 4mm file in there, you'll see that it fits quite well. That's a 4mm file. And when I filed the other one with a big back slope, that's this file here, which is your 5.2mm file. And yeah, well, look at that, way too big. Now let's see whether you can see the gap. Look at that gap, you can see that. So don't use the wrong file. Let's take another chain, and much to my surprise, I'll just sort of have a look at this for a minute. This is a 3/8 low profile chain, and it's a full chisel chain, and it actually filed up okay with the larger file. I was really surprised. Probably because on a full chisel you've got this, you don't have the radius, you've got this higher edge. So this edge is over 1 millimetre or so higher because of the square shoulder. I was really surprised that it did that. So, whereas you have a look at this other tooth, the back here, that was filed with a 4mm file, which is what it's supposed to. As you can see, that fits quite well. And if you put the 5, look at the gap. Terrible. So yeah, it just goes to show you. Okay, so that was a good example of don't use a small file or a big file. Always use the recommended file. So then I thought, how about I go get a 3/8 standard chain and put a small file in there and see what that's going to do on a full chisel. And it really put a huge hook on it. And you have a look at that. Wow, that's a parrot beak and a half. As soon as you hit a bit of hard timber, that's going to bend. Terrible looking tooth. So don't use a 4mm file. But look at the difference, a 4mm file where you should be using a 5.2 or a 5.5, depends on the manufacturer. So the only other tooth that I'd probably like to show you is if we actually have a look using the standard type file, which is 5.2mm, and we look at the hook there, that's fairly standard. Now on a full chisel, now by the way, that has no tilt on it. I still don't recommend tilt, downward tilt. So, but this chain manufacturer recommends 10 degrees downward tilt, and that's 10 degrees downward tilt with a file. And as you can see, there's less hook on that. Definitely less hook. And you can see that one's got more of a hook. Now, for those that are maybe not familiar with that terminology, hook or 10 degrees downward tilt, a 10 degrees downward tilt will give you a compounded bevel. And what that compounded bevel will do is this working corner won't be as pointy. And, well, sorry, it's still going to be pointy, but it won't be pointy this way. It's pointy that way on the top plate. You still got your same point. But 10 degrees downward tilt will change the geometry so you've got less hook. So the C shape isn't as much as a standard. So standard C shape would look like that. Still don't recommend using 10 degrees downward tilt. So that's what it would look like on a steel chain. And that's what it would look like after you've done 10 degrees downward tilt. A lot of people out there will turn around and tell you that most full chisel chains will benefit from 10 degrees downward tilt. Up to you whether you want to do it. You could always do 5 degrees. A lot of people out there don't know how much 10 degrees downward tilt is. So if I'm holding the file, 10 degrees is probably something like that. Anyway, that's probably it. There's probably not much else I can say, except please try and use the manufacturer's recommendation. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. The only thing that I would say, and I know this, I don't think that there's any problem if you're using a 5.5mm file for a 404, and when that chain gets worn halfway down, you swap to a 5.2. Can't see any problem with that. Same thing if you're using the 3/8 and you're using a 5.5 and you swap to a 5.2 when it wears halfway down. Still on their 3/8 chain, recommend a 5.2mm file. Other manufacturers recommend a 5.5. It's up to you. On a full chisel chain, it's not going to do, there's not going to be a lot of difference, because as I showed you on this chain before, the biggest effect that you will see is on a semi-chisel. Oh, we just lost the chain. Yeah, so semi-chisel has the greatest effect using the wrong file. And that's mainly because the working corner's shallower. Look, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and visit our Facebook group, Chainsaw Users. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.